Hello and welcome back to the channel, Life of Bonsai. In this video, I'm going to go over 5 different reasons and things that you can avoid to make sure that your tree stays alive and healthy. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing is buying the wrong tree. There is different species and type of trees that you can buy, especially when you're starting. The ones available are juniper trees, ficus trees, and Chinese elms. All of these are great trees. However, they have different requirements and you must provide each of them with the adequate environment in order to have a successful living tree. So, let's say you buy a juniper tree and you keep it indoors. This tree most likely is going to start declining because juniper trees require full sun and they also require a winter dormancy, so they need to be outdoors 24/7. But if you're looking for a tree that could be indoors, you can get something like a ficus or a jade. Now, most of the trees, if not all, are going to do so much better outside. However, there's a few trees like ficus and jades that could do well indoors with good lighting near a window or with artificial lighting that is really good for the tree. Now, the second reason is repotting a tree at the wrong time. So, again, just like different species of trees have different requirements, the same goes for repotting. So, most of the trees, like deciduous trees, things like Chinese elms, maples, trident maples, they need to be repotted at the right season. So for this is right before they start waking up. When the buds are swelling, this usually happens right after winter, at the beginning of spring. This is when you have the better chances of helping the tree survive and recover when doing a repot. But if you are wanting to, let's say you have a Japanese maple and you repot this tree in the middle of summer when it's just scorching hot, most likely that tree is not going to survive because it's too much stress, too much heat, and pretty much this tree could die. But if you have a tropical tree like a jade or a ficus, these are great to repot during summer. So they could be repotted in other seasons as well, as long as you keep those temperatures around above 70 degrees. But you get my point. Repotting at the wrong season could be pretty bad for your tree. So make sure you research and find out what species your tree is before you attempt to repot. If it's a tropical, pretty much any time of the year could work as long as it's above 70 degrees. Or if it's a deciduous, you definitely want to repot at the right season. Same thing goes for conifers and evergreens. The next thing is not having patience. Now this is a big mistake that I made several times. I know that whenever we purchase a tree, we most likely start with something small, and then we see all these bonsai trees online. We see it on magazines, pictures, on bonsai shows. These amazing looking trees with great ramification, great structures, really thick trunks, and you purchase a tree and you want to make it look like this other tree that you saw within a month. This is not going to be healthy for the tree because all these trees that you see online or magazine or at shows, these trees have been in training for years. And I'm not saying just 5 years. They've been in training for 15, 20 years. So you definitely have to practice patience. If you want to repot a tree, at the same time prune the tree, and then wire the tree, and then fertilize the tree, and try to style that tree within the same day, the same week, most likely your tree is going to fail and is not going to make it. Too much stress applied to a tree could really be bad for the tree and for the health of the tree. So this is one thing that you really want to avoid. Again, going back to the same other points, you definitely want to make sure that you do everything on the right season and maybe one thing per season. So if you repot a tree at the beginning of spring, then that means that you just leave that tree alone, let it recover, let it push as much growth as possible, and then maybe once the tree is healthier, you can do slight pruning, but you definitely want to wait until next year so you can do major things, major adjustments. Bonsai requires a lot of patience. If you don't have patience, you won't be successful. This takes years and years and years of patience. So if you want to develop a great looking tree that looks like a magazine, a show winner tree, practice patience. Don't get too carried away with working too many things at the same time. Little by little, year by year, your tree is going to look better and better if you practice patience. The next thing is overwatering or underwatering. I think the biggest issue is overwatering a tree, especially if the tree is in not the best soil. So let me explain. There is, of course, when you purchase a tree, most of the times it's going to be on regular potting soil, just from any garden center. These soils most of the times hold too much water. So if you water that tree on a schedule, if you water that tree every day, that soil just holds too much water and it affects the roots where you start getting root rot. And this is really, really bad for a bonsai tree. Root rot is really bad and is one of the biggest causes of a tree dying. To avoid root rot, you definitely want to make sure that you only water when the tree needs to be watered. You don't want to have a schedule. You don't want to do it every day, every other day. You only want to do it whenever the tree needs to be watered. One thing that I like to do is stick my finger in the soil about 2 inches or 1 inch and see how it feels. If it's moist, leave it alone. If it starts to feel dry, water that tree thoroughly and then wait until it needs more water again. Another thing that you can do is at the right time of the season, you can transplant your tree into better draining soil. Most of the times you can use bonsai soil, which is Akadama, pumice, and lava, and this does not hold as much water as just regular potting mix. So this you can water the tree more often, but you also want to make sure that you don't underwater, because when you have a soil that drains faster, that means that it could also dry faster. So you want to make sure that you're not also underwatering your tree, because that could also be detrimental for the tree. So underwatering and overwatering could be a bad situation if you don't have a control and you don't do it at the right time where the tree needs the water. And the last thing, other factors. Pretty much there is other issues that could definitely have detrimental things to your bonsai tree. Fertilizing and pest is what I mean by other factors. So if you fertilize your tree too much, too heavy, you can burn those roots. If you have a tree that is young or recently repotted and you start fertilizing that tree like crazy, then it's definitely going to burn those roots, and it's definitely not going to allow the tree to push nutrients and water to the foliage and to the whole tissues of the tree. So definitely fertilizing could really be a bad thing for the tree if you don't do it right and at the right season as well. You definitely want to use that fertilizer most likely on spring and around September as well. But there is always times, depending on the species, where you can fertilize a tree for better results. And then also pest. You also want to look for pests on your trees. There's things like spider mites, mealybugs, and there's also scales that could cause the tree to die out. These things steal nutrients from your tree, slowly decaying the tree until it's no longer recoverable. So what do you want to do? You want to make sure that you inspect the tree every so often, if possible every day, to see if you see any leaf spots, any webbing on your tree. That could be a sign of spider mites, any browning or discoloration of foliage. So definitely this is something that you want to check for, and make sure that you use a proper treatment. You always want to just make sure that you don't overspray too much of a disinfectant, or some type of thing that will help with fungus. You don't want to overspray your tree, because this could also be bad. It could burn the foliage. If it's too hot outside and you start spraying, this is definitely could be bad for the tree. So make sure that you do everything at the right time. It goes back to the same points. You want to do things at the right time of the year. You want to inspect your tree for pests. You want to fertilize at the right time of the year. You want to repot at the right time of the year for the species of the tree that you have. You want to make sure that you water your tree only when it needs to be watered, not when you want to water. It's always when the tree needs to. And also make sure that you research and see what you can provide for a tree. If your climate is always way too cold and you don't have a indoor place where it's it could be pretty warm for a tree, then a ficus is not a good option for you. You could do better with something different. If you don't get enough sun, or just pretty much shaded all the time, then you can't really get a juniper tree. You always want to make sure that you get the right tree for the right location. So this is it for this video. I really hope that these 5 causes help you with your tree and resolve any issues. Please share this video with your friends so you can also help them develop better skills with their trees. And also like the video and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys have an amazing day.